In this second installment of the bathroom LVP project, we're going to do an overview and preparation, including removing the toilet, shoe molding, and deciding on the layout. So there were the planks, and here's the bathroom that we're going to do. So first thing I did was to get rid of this door and also the bathroom closet door. Both, get them out in the hallway. Got rid of this shelf, and that gives us access to the closet so we can continue the flooring in there, and gives us a good look. So we got this nook here, and we got the main room, and then we have the that little closet, and then the area around the toilet. So we're gonna have to remove the toilet first and get that out of the way so we can put the flooring in there. So it's not too big of an ordeal. You have to cut the water off, obviously, and then get the water out of the toilet. Yeah, I'm basically holding down on this for a really long time so that all the water in the tank goes into the bowl, and then whatever's left in the bowl, I'm going to bail out and dump it in this bucket here. And if you don't do that, then whatever's in the toilet, when you move the toilet, will slosh around and get on the floor. So trying to get all the water out, and I'm using this rag here to sop up the last bit of water in the toilet, and that way it's not going to be all over my floor. So I gotta pop these plastic things off, little caps, and these closet bolts were not rusted or corroded, because sometimes you'll find that they're so corroded that you can't get them off. You might have to use a hacksaw to get through them, but these were very easy to get off. The new wax ring that you buy will include new bolts and nuts anyway, so you don't really need to preserve these. And so if you have to hacksaw through them, it's no big deal. But these came off pretty easily. And then you got to disconnect the fresh water supply from the tank, and once you get that off, then you're ready to move the toilet. You lift straight up on it. Now I'm using this little mat here that I don't care about. Just sort of pry it up, and it's sort of stuck down there with that wax ring. Just move it onto that. I got that little mat there, and then I'm just going to drag that out of the room and get it out of the way, and make sure that I've got plenty of elbow room. Need to remove this wax ring, whatever's left of it, and so with that same little baling can, I'm just going to use a putty knife and pull all that wax off so I can not get that all over me when I'm working on the floor. So I'll get that out of the way, and then we're ready for first, one more thing. We're going to plug this hole, because the trap in this toilet system is basically inside the toilet. Since the toilet's gone, there's no trap, and the sewer gas can come up, so we'll plug that up just so that doesn't come in the room. The next thing we do is remove the shoe molding. So I'm going to save this shoe molding, so I'm going to try to get it off with as little damage as possible. But either way, you would want to cut through the caulk, and that way it won't tear up the casing as bad. So sometimes there's caulk along the floor, usually not. But I got this little tool that works pretty good. You pry it up just enough to get in there against the casing, and then you pry it away from the casing, because the shoe molding is nailed into the casing. And I'm going to number these so that as I go through, when I replace them, I'll know exactly where they go. There won't be any mystery there. But that pry thing that I got has a rounded edge on it, so it's pretty easy on the casing. So when you get it prying away from the casing like that, you don't mar up the casing, and you can, want another coat of paint, you'll never know you had any prying work there. Versus if you had some kind of a screwdriver or something, sometimes that'll dig into the casing and make a mark. But anyway, like I said, pry it up from the floor just a little bit, enough to get in from the top, and then once you get into the top, go along just a little bit each. Don't try to do the whole thing at once. Do it just along the whole length of the casing. And sometimes you'll be left with like some wood on the wall. We're going to see later we're going to clean that up. We're also going to have to clean up the shoe molding themselves. Now in this case, it's under the toe kick, so it makes it a little more difficult to get it off. And in fact, the prying action has to be all from the floor up, as opposed to from the wall out. And in this case, I had to take my time and be pretty gentle, because when you're prying up, it makes it more difficult. But if you work long enough at it, you can get it out. So this is the last piece. I had 15 pieces of shoe molding that I took off, and later on we'll talk about how to clean those up and paint them and get them prepared for reuse. So the next thing I'm going to do is go through the layout, like where do you want the plank boundaries to end. And so I draw a non-scale diagram, obviously non-scale, but it's so that I have somewhere to write down all these measurements. Later on we're going to put every one of these measurements, one after the other, into a drawing tool called Sketchup, which you can download for free for Mac or PC. And I do some measurements straight across the room to sort of double check, because you can run around the room through the entire polygon, and then a lot of times you'll be off a little bit. I was only off like, I don't know, less than a half an inch. So if you go into SketchUp and you set it onto the top view and grab the pencil, just draw a line any length, and then you come down and you set the length of the line by just typing it in. So you go around the room and you type in every length that you've got, and you just put any small length line in the direction you want to go, and then before you know it, pop, you got this to scale drawing, and you got this little measuring tool, and I'm checking it right now. So yeah, this came out, those across the room measurements are coming out very accurately, so I know that I've got a good accurate layout. Now I drew a bunch of planks. They're 4 feet long and 6 inches wide, and I decided, well, hey, it'd be nice if I could start a full plank along under the toe kick. And so I set the spacing to a 1/4 inch, and we'll talk more about that later. They say half, but that wouldn't work. But when I did the 1/4 inch spacing under the toe kick, I got this little sliver of a piece near the door, to the entrance door, and it's not wide enough to get out to the carpet, I don't think. I mean, I'm going to take a look at it here. See, like that's where the end of the tape measure is, where the floor would end, and the carpet is sort of pulled back, and I wanted to extend the floor farther out into the hallway. And this is the transition piece that you can get from the flooring company, and it just didn't, it looked like it would be threatening to pull out. So I decided that what I would do instead is shift the layout so that a full plank would be along that top wall where that red line is actually. And when I unhide the planks, this is the new layout, or the slightly shifted layout, where the full plank is going to be along there, and then I'm going to have a plank between the door, or in the door jamb, that's going to be about, I'm going to rip it down to be about half a plank. And under the toe kick, we're going to have one that's about 3/4 of a plank, and so along this wall, a full plank, like I said, going down this wall, a full plank, and then you got to check the other places to see what's going on. So let's look behind the toilet here. Behind the toilet, we've got about 2/3 of a plank, which is good. And then you just don't want a sliver. And in the closet, we got about 3/4 of a plank, so that's good. So I think this layout's going to work okay. So I print it out, and there we go. Now we're ready for our next step.